Welcome to the McKinnon Legal Podcast, your guide to brighter paths beyond challenging marriages. Here's your host, Christina McKinnon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to 2024. Happy New Year. This year, we're talking about some good things that have been occurring over the last 6 months. In the state of Florida, we enacted July 1st of 2023, a Good Dad Act. It's actually enacted in the paternity statute and in the parenting statute of the state of Florida. Which makes some wonderful modifications and some changes that automatically presumes an equal time sharing schedule. Here today as my guest, and I would say esteemed guest today, is Dr. Bernard Jennings, who will talk a little bit about the history of this, the enactment of the passage of the statute, and his efforts around the country to get this enacted in other states. Bernard, welcome.
Happy New Year. Thank you for welcoming me on the program. I'm happy to be here. It's going to be a great year. The year ended well for a lot, and it's going to be even better this year because finally fathers that have been outed from their children now have an opportunity to spend time with their family. So we're happy about that.
Absolutely. And, you know, my role as a family law practitioner, marital and family law practitioner, this has been a hot topic for many, many years. Dads who did not have kids that were born in the covering of a marriage were treated disparately. There was an archaic law on the books. I believe in other states like Georgia, they call them illegitimate, right, or legitimacy hearings. Here, the law sort of mirrored that, but we called them paternity cases. And these paternity cases basically said if you have a child born out of wedlock, then the mother is the natural guardian of the child, and the dad has to file a case to get some legal rights. Now, what is the change?
Well, the change now is that once the father steps up, they call it, he steps up and his name is already on the birth certificate, then he doesn't have to go through the paternity hearings with the judge for the judge to give him his legal rights to his child. And before, paternity just meant you have a financial responsibility. It didn't even give you visitation and custody rights because you have to go back and refile and serve the mother. And if she's been left to Georgia, North Carolina, Dubai, there's nothing you can do except 6 months go by, that's the new venue. So a lot of dads for years haven't seen their children. Right now, they're trying to figure out where their child is so they can spend time. So since July 1, so this new law says that when a father steps up, he is considered to be equal standing as the mother is when he goes to court, and the court should treat him as if he was married, though he's not. And with that, there's a trifecta. The judge, before she does anything, she has to come to the decision that what the visitation is, what the custody is, what the time sharing is prior to instilling child support, which is a great thing because
right, absolutely.
They both have equal rights to the child, then who has the child and who has to pay?
Right, absolutely. And what I see on my end in the courts is a lot of the cases that we had beforehand where there was a situation where there may have been an unequal distribution of time sharing. One was the majority time sharing parent and one was the minority time sharing parent. These fathers are coming back and getting their cases modified because of this new presumption, right? So I just want for our listeners to understand that the applicable statute in terms of what you need to sign, dads, if you're out there, dads, and you're not married to the mom, it's 742.10 Florida statutes. It talks about the affidavit that must be signed by both you and mom with 2 witnesses. Also, signing off on the birth certificate gets you this legal paternity status. What Bernard referred to before was biological, right? If you get a paternity test, that's biological paternity. We're not talking about that. We're talking about legal status at being recognized as a person who has a right of access, a right to parent their child, right, Bernard?
Absolutely. So now going into court, the fact that you establish your own paternity, once you are the birth certificate, that means your mother and you signed at the hospital at some point that you're the father's acknowledged. Now the judge can fast track the case to, okay, let's get you into mediation, let's get you into co-parenting and get to the point where you can see your child, as long as there's no nefarious allegations from either side about what's going on with the child.
Okay. Well, Bernard, because our time is sort of limited today in this podcast to sort of get out as much information as possible about what you're doing, give us the name of your group, your efforts here in Florida, and then your efforts outside of Florida, and what your intention is for this Good Dad Act to reach the borders of the state of Florida.
In a snapshot, what happened with me, my son's mother, withdrew my son from school, and I wasn't able to have access to him. So I wrote a proposal to the state legislature, and it was accepted and passed both House and the Senate unanimously. The governor signed it into law. So with that being said, we formed a group called the Good Dad Act Committee through the Biscayne Gardens Chamber of Commerce. I am the president of Biscayne Gardens Chamber of Commerce. So we created a committee, a standing committee. Now we have fathers from around the country, not only in Florida, but other states. We have team leaders in Arizona, New York, Michigan, Arkansas, Texas, and U.S. Virgin Islands. And we've actually taken this same bill and mirrored it in those states, adding those fathers as now a proponent of the bill, and contacted the state legislature in those states and submitted the bill so that it can go through the process in those states to become law. We're going to do this with all 50 states. Hopefully we can do it by the end of the year, or however long it takes. We're committed. We've already benefited from the law in the state of Florida. Fathers throughout the state now benefit from the law, but now we're going to try to make sure it's the law of the land, because everybody knows somebody who knows somebody that has a problem, like we've expressed in this program so far. And there's another bill that's very important, 1301, which is a time-sharing statute, which is we call the sister bill, or the brother bill to this bill, that gives, once the father does step up, then he gets 50% time with the child, with a presumption that the mother can rebut it. But there's really two things she'd have to say to rebut it: that he's been convicted of child molestation or convicted of domestic violence against a child. Because you can be a bad boyfriend, a bad girlfriend, because it goes both ways, but you're still entitled to father or parent or mother your child. And it's unfair that some people use the child as a weapon against one another because they're being bitter. And it doesn't have to be that way. The child deserves both parents, and that's what we're about. So it's called the Good Dad Act. You can go to gooddadact.com and learn more about it. Just Google Good Dad Act.
Right. Absolutely. And it's interesting that you bring that up, because yes, there is a rebuttable presumption of equal time sharing under this new law. But the other thing for the practitioners on my side is we have to go through and analyze all of the factors now in the statute. Before, we can sort of pick and choose. There are 20 factors in the statute as to what makes a good parenting plan, what's in the best interest of the child. And of course, if there's an opposing counsel on the other side, we're both battling it out, showing that these factors are more so in our client's favor, and asking the court to weigh them out. Now we have to analyze all 20 factors. And one of the factors in particular is sub M of 6113, sub 3, sub letter M in the statute. I'm trying to visualize it as I'm talking to you. And that is the evidence of domestic violence, verifiable domestic violence, either against the child or in the presence of the child, right? So those types of factors certainly weigh into whether a person is fit, whether a person has substance abuse or alcohol abuse history. Things that would be detrimental to the child certainly would play a factor in someone not getting an equal time sharing arrangement. But a good lawyer, a good advocate for a client would be able to, point those out and show that either, number one, they're so remote that this person has rehabilitated themselves, or number two, that they were never convicted of a crime and they were mere allegations. So there's the presence of a domestic violence case or allegation or even charge does not convict somebody for life. I've had cases where people have served their time on unrelated matters, no matter what the crime was, served their time, paid their debt to society, and come back and petition for their children. And I think that every person deserves to be a father. It's one of the most fundamental rights any person can have, man or woman, is to parent your child.
Yeah, it's one of the inalienable rights.
Right? Well, I don't know about that. I would say fundamental.
When you had a loss of your child and you've been separated from your child without your will, then you go as deep as you can in thought of, gee, this is just not right.
All right, come a little bit further, closer to your microphone.
When it happens to you, when you're in a position, if you're a parent and you've ever had someone abscond with your child and just all these false allegations and try to get a domestic violence charge against you for just because, like it happened to me and so many of these fathers. We have this group that now we meet every Tuesday at 8 p.m. and we've done it for 30 meetings now, and we've had between 20 and 30 fathers each meeting, and they're all saying the same thing. If I had a hat with the story and passed it around, the people change. There's a little twist to what happened in the story, but it's all the same thing. And somehow mothers know to go file domestic violence charge against the father, and they get a one-up in the custody arrangements. So it's very hard to go through this. It's the worst thing is to be accused of something that you weren't even present in the same town when it happened, or you weren't even there when it happened, and you have to defend yourself. How do you prove something that never happened? It's very hard. So it's very hard for men, and men don't talk about this. We don't have groups that we get together and talk about what happened with our ex. It's like that's a taboo. We talk about sports, we talk about business, we talk about other things, but we're not talking about bad relationships. We're looking for the new relationship. So this group sort of lets men come together, and we actually have some women come on, some sisters, some grandmothers, in support of their significant other who's had this issue, to help walk them through, invite a great guest on, like you were a guest on our program last. And we even have a few judges have come on from different divisions to talk to the dads in a more relaxed setting, so they don't have to be so intimidated by the bench, and get to understand that, hey, these people that are involved in this process are real people. You can talk to them in real time and just try to be less emotional, less accusatory, less angry, and just get to the facts of the case, and that may help you move along further in your litigation.
Okay. In terms of marketing and promotions, like what are you doing, not outside of the state of Florida, but within the state of Florida, to get this information out to more dads so that they are not further alienated from their children?
Well, we're a not-for-profit, so we don't have a big purse string to be able to advertise and market, but we do have a Instagram post, instagram.com/Good Dad Act, and we have a Facebook at the same thing. And then we ask the fathers, as they're on their own social media, to post it out. We post every day two memes from Instagram and Facebook to different places, and the word is spreading. More people are learning more about it, and each week we have new fathers. Last night we had at least 5 new dads that hadn't been on the program before. And the great thing is that we have dads that have been there for the 30 weeks religiously with us from the beginning, coming every week. And when they can't come, they don't have to, but they're sending me messages saying, hey, I'm sorry I can't be here tonight, but I'll be here next week because I have something going on. So these are responsible, good dads. We're not just trying to say we want any person who fathered a child to be in this process, but it's not just to be a father, but to be a daddy, to be a good dad. And there's a lot of good men out there that want time with their children. Unfortunately, when you're stepping up and saying you want your child, there's this opposition from the other side saying, no, we're going to give you a hard time. And that's what we need to get from deadbeat dad verbiage to the good dad. So that's why we're this Good Dad Act across the nation.
Okay. And last night in the meeting, and let me know if I'm getting too personal, you shared a personal story about your situation, not with your ex-wife, but you had another child that was taken from you, right?
Right. It was I had a child with a young lady, and we shared parental responsibilities, me primarily most of the time. And then when she found out I was getting engaged to be married to someone else, a week later she popped up and tried to snatch the child away and took him out of private school that I had him in, and withdrew him from school, and was off of social media. Her parents didn't know where she was anymore. Her friends didn't know where she was anymore. And I was like, okay, where's my son? I tried to get a hearing before the judge, and I got the hearing. It was a Zoom hearing, and the judge disclosed that there's nothing she could do for me. I had to serve her papers. So, Your Honor, she's moved. I don't know where she is. Well, sorry, Mr. Jennings, we can't do anything for you. Good luck. So that drove me to write the proposal to the state legislature. I went through a couple of state representatives in the South Florida area that they can only do six bills per session per legislature. So I had to walk around and figure out who could help. And Christopher Benjamin, a Democrat out of Miami Gardens, he stepped up and said, let me take it on. A week later, he called me back and said that it went through the law committee. They accepted it. He was able to get the Speaker of the House to accept it. And then Mr. Yarbrough, who's a state senator, a Republican out of Duval County, to accept it. And the rest is history. Went through 6 committees on both sides, the full House and full Senate. And now it's law. 8 months later, it became law. So we're going to try to take that momentum across the country. We've met with a representative by the name of Melody Hernandez in Arizona, and she's going to take it through the Capitol with the assembly. They call it the assembly in Arizona. We've got it in Michigan and New York. We're going to go state to state. We're looking for team leaders. So if you're anybody in another state that has an issue with child custody, give us a call or go to the website, direct them to www.gooddadact.com. We'll dub them a team leader and help show them the process and how to get it done, and they can be part of the self-help. This is very therapeutic for a lot of dads, because before they have to pay an attorney and pay a lot of costs, and they're stuck. They don't know what to do. But when you sort of take the bull by the horn and you're doing something, you see there's results from it, it's actually working. It's very satisfying. It's going to help bring families together. We're so proud of what's going on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know you gave your email address or website address. Is there another way to contact you by phone, or
Yeah,
is that
they can call me at 786-486-7217. Or if you even Google gooddadact.com, there's a lot of things that pop up that will have phone numbers for myself and some people from the chamber that you can speak to about it. You can go to Biscayne Gardens Chamber of Commerce.com. That's BiscayneChamber.com. We actually have some other things. We have a partnership with Google through the chamber where we're offering dads an opportunity to get some certifications to increase their income so they can help take care of their family. A lot of dads, have issues with money because of the court costs and everything. So there's some opportunities for them to get employment. There's actually through Google a web portal where there's jobs from all around the world that are on our site that they can actually apply for and work from home, making some good money to help with their responsibilities and being a good dad. Most good dads we find, they're just looking for a better way to do things and get it done and be good dads. And we're going to support that.
So even if they prefer to be a homemaker, to be there for the kids, they can find remote jobs. They can find lots of resources that would help them in this increased responsibility if they are seeking equal time sharing with the mother. Is that correct?
Right there on the website at gooddadact.com. Right on the website, you'll be able to see on the tab various opportunities for dads to get some motivation. We're going to put some other services as we move forward and get other services so that dads are looking for other services they can go and log on to get parent counseling, peer counseling, and things of that sort.
Okay. All right. And are there any other ways that, the listeners or the legal community and people in the legislature can help, maybe financially or contribution wise, and where do they go to help in that way?
Yes, so you can go to gooddadact.com. Again, there's a GoFundMe that's there. It says, donate, and we're accepting contributions because, to do this across the country is going to cost. We may have to do some traveling, a lot of phone calls, some mailing, and we want to put together some material that we can send out to other practitioners because counselors need to know what's going on with this bill. School principals need to know, police officers need to know, so that when a father or a mother get into a disagreement about a child and they get a call from one party to the next, they know that, wait a minute, there's other options. You guys are arguing now, but there's other ways for you to work this out. And go to this website, or here's new information on law. Because, like this past year, 200 laws were passed in the Florida legislature. How many do we all know about? I know about 3 or 4 of them, 5 of them, but there's more that I don't know about. So it's up to the people who are involved in the process to help educate everyone else.
Right. And, I just find that your story is just amazing. Like, you're somebody who had a personal situation. You happen to have the connections and the contacts. You knew certain representatives that, hey, we all know and love. He's a lawyer. He's a community leader here in South Florida, but he helped you push this through the House and get this bill passed in both houses, actually, and the governor signed it. There may not be an analogous situation in another state. So this is why it's very important. And I'm posing this to the listeners, very important that we fund these lobbying efforts. You didn't use a big lobbying firm to get this law passed, did you?
No, we didn't. We just word of mouth. We got on the phone and made phone calls ourselves. And the good thing is that we have these dads around the country now that are part of our movement, that they've agreed, hey, once we get it into another state, we're going to get a script and have them calling from state to state to assist so that we can move across the country with this activity to get the law passed. So we have help, unlike before. And I never dreamt this would be, but God is good. He's put me in place to do this, and I'm going to see it through to the end, all 50 states.
Okay, he has raised you up for such a time as this. Bernard, thank you again. Can you give that website and telephone number one last time?
Yes, it's www.gooddadact.com. You can even Google that, Good Dad Act. And I want to thank you so much. My phone number is 786-486-7217. Thank you for inviting me in the program, and you're welcome to come back in our program and talk to dads. They enjoyed talking to you. We were there for 2 hours last night, one of the longest
I
programs.
know when I got off the podcast, everybody in my home was asleep. It was after 2 o'clock last night.
Okay.
But you know what? I enjoy talking about what I do. I'm very passionate about what I do. This is certainly a calling from a very young age, if you can believe that or not. But this is what I love to do. I love to fight for people. I love to make wrongs right. And that's what I'm able to do as an advocate, as an attorney. And once again, I want to thank you so very much. I'll have you on probably a little bit later in the year to show the progress and what you have done in other states. And as this law evolves, hopefully we can get some more rights for dads. Still not equal, although these standards are put in place. The way they are litigated or the way that they are interpreted and the actual findings that are made in court still have not leveled the playing field for dads and for moms.
It'll take some time, and we've actually submitted something else for next year, legislation to address false allegations and paternity fraud. So we can talk about that in another program after it moves forward.
Yeah, you just came up with another subject matter for the podcast. So wonderful. Okay, thank you again. And thank you, listeners, for your faithful support and viewership, listenership. And we'll see you next month on the McKinnon Legal Podcast.
Thank you for joining us on the McKinnon Legal Podcast. Remember, there's always a path to a brighter, happier future. Stay tuned for more positive insights on troubled relationships and legal solutions. For more information, please visit mckinnon-legal.com. That's MCKINNON-legal.com or call 877-920-1614.